Hello everyone, this is Pras from the FPL Wire and it is Wildcard time. It's Gameweek 6 and as planned, we are on Wildcard. It is active. It's been a good 5 weeks for me. I've been very lucky with some of the picks I made in Gameweek 1, especially the cheapos, like Smith Rowe, Rogers, Pedro. So happy, even though I was massively punished by the Arsenal guys who kept keeping a clean sheet week after week, or Gabriel scoring week after week, or Saka got a return in every single game in the 5 weeks. But it's good. I'll have them back. I apologize to my Arsenal picks. I'll have a triple up of you forever. But look, this video is going to be a short one. I simply on a Sunday night wanted to talk about my thoughts just after the weekend game so that I can revisit and see if I haven't changed too much in terms of my thinking, basically getting Twitter FOMO or stuff. I haven't seen many teams shared. LR and Zoff haven't shared any drafts with me as such. I mean, I know their thoughts generally, but they haven't really shared a lot. And so I wanted to do this as a fresh video, and there will be a lot more content. We'll do a long form video. Each of Zoff and LR will do their drafts. I'll do my team selection later. So don't worry, this is just the beginning of the week. So starting off, as we go ahead, the first thing that I wanted to talk about, which I always do if you listen to me, is basically fixtures. Having a long-term view about the players to target and the teams to target. And so I think the idea and why I love this wildcard draft is basically the fact that you can get players for a very, very long time. There's no hopping around that you need to do as such. And you can be selective. There's certain positions where you can be a little bit more hop on, hop off versus other positions where you can be very, very long term. And you can see this here where, let's say, a team like Brentford is third on the trigger. For the foreseeable future, this is 10 game weeks. There's not a single fixture that I wouldn't be happy playing an Mbumo, even a Flecken, maybe even a defender. Okay, Man United away, Villa away. Apart from that, these are really, really good long-term fixtures. So 2-3 Brentford, I think, is sensible. I think if you think about Ipswich, I think getting a 4.0 million Greaves or even a Leif Davis, long-term, fine. Like, you don't need to worry about them. Everton, a lot of people are looking at DCL, maybe even, an Everton defender, maybe even McNeil, long-term glue picks. Yes, they may be rubbish and you want to move them out for different reasons. But I think as a structure, these are not positions you need to touch. And then you come down a little bit and you see Arsenal. I think Arsenal are a little bit different where they have two amazing games, home to two promoted sides, Leicester and Southampton. Then you have four okayish games like, Bournemouth away, Liverpool home, Newcastle away, Chelsea away. Now, Arsenal could win all four of those. So you could have a view that I will just keep my triple up and keep them forever. Or you could have a view that, I can do a short-term moving around. Let's say I can do Saka to Son, or I can do Havertz to Solanke, or I can do, a Gabriel to a Porro. I think all of those marry well with a Spurs fixture where you see actually their first two are tougher, Man United away and Brighton away. But then after that, they've got four good ones. So you can do a little bit of a Arsenal to Spurs hokey-cokey if you wanted to, or you can keep them forever. West Ham are up there, but West Ham look really poor. Aston Villa and Man City are the next ones. Again, Aston Villa, long-term good picks. So I think people will be keeping Rodgers now for the foreseeable, now that he's finally delivered on the promise that he was showing us. Ollie Watkins is in the shout. Konza is in the shout. Shout out to Konza. And of course, Man City. Like, I wish we would have a second clear pick from Man City. We don't. And we'll talk about some of the options. But that's about where we are. We didn't talk about Man United as well. So similar to Spurs, Man United also are a team where they have two tricky-ish, like Spurs and Aston Villa. But again, after that, nice. So if you wanted to go for Garnacho, Bruno, I know that's not a popular pick. They get a lot of hate. But actually, it's not too bad after the first 2 weeks. So moving from fixtures, let's go to what I think will be a locked team for me. I'm not saying for Twitter, for me. And so I'll start with basically, or on the screen first, let me read it out. The guys I think will be locked are Raya and a 4.0 defender, then a Gabriel, a 4.5 defender, a 4 million defender, and I think it'll be Greaves, Trent. So 4 of my positions in defense are actually set. I've got Saka, I've got Rogers, I've got Bumo, who are set, and then I've got Haaland and a cheap striker. So I've put here Chris Wood, simply because this is the FPL Wire and we love Wood. And also because Wood is the most expensive out of the guys. So, I will try to show you a team with Wood in it at all times, so that if you don't have that team value, you can consider DCL, you can consider João Pedro. I think all are good picks. And if you wanted to really go further, you have Jamie Vardy as well, I think, at similar-ish price. So there are options there. I just don't know how to close my WhatsApp, man. Sorry about the noise. So moving on, I have in this, the thinking is that my Arsenal triple up, you can go for double Arsenal attack, you could go for Havertz, but I just fear that those easy games are going to be games where Jesus plays up top, or something happens where Havertz is not as effective, where I know that Raya, Gabriel and Saka are going to be effective for the long term. But people could think about, instead of Saka, Havertz as their striker and do something around that. They could think about Saliba and Gabriel and have a Flecken in goal. I think those structures are possible. And let's say, Raya was seen with a little band-aid and limping, I think he'll be fine. But if he is out for a while, then Saliba, Gabriel may be more popular. So that's around the edges. But I think Rodgers is the clear 5 million. Mbumo is very clear. I don't need to explain that. And I'm tempted by Collins at the moment, or Pinnock. I mean, I haven't done my research on who between the two. Just because between Collins and Ipswich, or between Brentford and Ipswich, there's a playable guy pretty much every week for the foreseeable future. So they act as your third defender or your fourth defender. Or when you look at basically the guy I'm trying to fill up, that could also be an option. So Trent will stay. I don't need to say much about Trent. I think if you wanted to get money out, now Trent is not essential. Like, I felt for the first 5 weeks, Trent was essential because that 12-15 pointer was coming. Well, it came. He could have got another couple, but he is still, for me, massively underpriced. For me, if you were to say, I can go Saka and somebody cheap versus, Saka and Trent versus I could go Salah and a cheap 4.5 defender, I would say go Saka and Trent. Because I think the long-term viability of having a Trent in your team just means that under slot, clean sheets are coming. He is always attacking. He's on set pieces. For me, he stays around. He's not going anywhere. And so when I look at these glue guys, these long-term picks, I'm thinking to myself, 11 of my picks are pretty set, unless there's an injury. And so what then that means is I can be a little bit more creative with the other 4 positions, even if it means maybe a thin bench, or maybe it means picking players who have short-term good fixtures. So I'll try to be creative with you guys and try to show you 3 different drafts that I'm considering at the moment, just playing around with these 4 positions. And that also somewhat depends on your free transfers. You could be coming into Wildcard 6 with no free transfers, and so you may have to be a little bit safer. I will have 2 free transfers coming out of the wildcard. Some may have 3. That just basically increases your threshold for, if you're wrong, you're wrong. Make a transfer. So I think that's also something you need to think about. I will probably err on the riskier side, only because I can, or actually I shouldn't say riskier, on the more short-term side with these 4 picks, because I feel like I can be a little bit more short-term. If there's something that comes up, I can deal with it. So let me go to my first draft, which is basically the Watkins draft. So I'm going to read it out again. Obviously, the locked guys stay in. So it's Raya, Fabianski, Gabriel, Rico Lewis, Collins, Greaves, Trent. And then in midfield, Saka, Rodgers, Bumo, Semenyo, Eze, Watkins, Wood, and Haaland. Like I said, Wood can be anybody else. So the thinking behind this draft is that it's a little bit riskier because I've got Rico Lewis in there, but he's the 4th defender. So I could play Collins or Greaves, like I said, every single week. So he could be the guy who starts, and if you find out that he's not starting, like for example, Gameweek 6, City are the early kickoff. So you could just see that. And the reason why I have become a little bit more bullish on Lewis is because Rodri limped off today, and we will find out how injured he is. If it is anything medium term, then I do feel that, early season Lewis started a lot was because of giving that extra stability alongside Kovacic, and he got that license to come in central areas. Now Stones wasn't fit then. Stones can do the same thing. So TBD. I could go, instead of Lewis, somebody way safer like a Konza, somebody way even longer term safer like a Colwill. So there are lots of options in the 4.5 bracket. This is just to show that I could do that. And then in midfield, I think this is the sensible, stable midfield. Like, Semenyo has looked good for Bournemouth. I think even in the last game, like I was still monitoring him very closely. Is he the guy? But even with Evanilson up top, he gets the big chances. Like he got 2 massive chances against Liverpool. Actually, he scored one. He was just offside. Looks good, man. So I think as a pick, even though after the first 1 or 2 games they have tougher games, this team, and this will be a theme for my teams, has got 12, 13 good players. So I don't mind benching Semenyo for some of the tougher games. And then Eze, like I don't think we need to lose faith in Eze. Like if I think of midfielders under 7.5, apart from Mbumo, you can't tell me a midfielder that's better than Eze for sure. And when I think about Eze, when I think about the previous game against Man United, again, 2 amazing chances. I mean, okay, good chances. Mateta going off at halftime basically to me says Eze is still the man. Like there are games where he might be the only, Mateta doesn't start and Nketiah starts up top, Eze takes the pens. And so even games where Mateta goes off earlier, Eze takes the pens. So I don't think we should just give up and say he's not on pens anymore. I think he's, that 45th minute sub still tells me that he's the main man. It's not Mateta. And then up top, I've gone for Watkins. Now, this third striker is going to be a position of value. But for me here, it's a position of just basically saying, I want Watkins now that he's playing. He played 95 minutes. For me, his minutes are back. That whole thing of carrying something, is he going to lose minutes to Duran? I think we've now seen 2-3 times that Duran comes on, Watkins stays on as well. He's not going for that 60-70 minute subs. He's got returns in the last 2 games. Even in the midweek Champions League, I think he scored, it was offside or something. I think Watkins is a great pick for the next 2 games. And after that, if you want to move it on to Solanke, this is where the number of transfers come in. If I don't make a transfer for 2 weeks, I'll have 4 free transfers. So why would I not go for that upside for Watkins and then move him on to a Solanke or somebody else than starting with a Solanke? So that's where I feel I can use that short-term punt and go for a Watkins here. Now, if my team value is higher, so if you don't have the same team value, like I said, Wood can become João Pedro, he can become DCL. You could have a cheaper midfielder instead of Eze. You can go for a 6.5 midfielder. You can go for a Garnacho. There are options there. Semenyo could become a 5.4 like McNeil. Rico Lewis could become a 4.5 defender. I think a Nottingham Forest defender could be viable as well. So there are ways to cut price. This is just the structure that I'm trying to think about, particularly for my team. Next draft, same 4 positions that I move around. I'm going to go for this one, which is a Palmer draft. So this is basically everything that people tell you not to do, which is basically stuff your money on 3 expensive players. But because it's Haaland, Palmer and Saka instead of Haaland, Palmer and Salah, I think it's more doable. Like you tell me, I'm going to read out the team. Raya and Fabianski in goal. Gabriel. So this back 5 is the same as the last draft. So Rico Lewis, Collins, Greaves, Trent. Midfield is Saka, Rogers, Bumo. What I've done is basically I've taken the Semenyo Manu, moved him down to a Carvalho. I'm not going to play Carvalho much, so it's a very punty pick. And then I have Palmer up top, and then Watkins has basically been downgraded to a second cheap striker, which is now Calvert-Lewin. So again, João Pedro could be either of those 2, so you could still have this setup. And like this has the appeal of picking Palmer for the 2 home games in the next 2, where not many people have Palmer. So it's like, you get that additional upside from a player who's not going to be playing Champions League. Now, the only problem I have with Palmer is basically these annoying subs that Maresca keeps making, and Felix comes on every game. Whenever he comes on, he's playing centrally. Like, Maresca's playing how I used to play Championship Manager, where I used to buy too many players because you have budget, and then you have to keep all your players happy, and then you almost have pre-planned subs that I've got 2 players for every position. For on the left, I'm going to have Mudryk and Sancho. On the right, I'm going to have Neto and Madueke. In the middle, I'll have Palmer and Felix. And every game, I'm going to make a sub. So that's my one worry with Palmer. But then you also have to put that into context of Chelsea look good. Chelsea are looking back. Like they are now putting teams away comfortably. 3 goals. West Ham was a very, very good performance. So maybe there is upside there. And so what I'm losing in this draft compared to the previous one is obviously no Watkins. But then Calvert-Lewin is also on penalties. Would it be that big of a downgrade? So you have to think about Calvert-Lewin, Carvalho and Palmer versus Watkins, Eze, and Semenyo. Now, when I say it like that, I do like the Watkins draft a little bit more, but Palmer is tempting, man. Like, remember what Palmer did last year. And again, I'm being honest, like, I have good team value, so I feel like this is a team not many people can get to. And so it is attractive from that point of view that, not many people can get to a Palmer. But I don't want to spend my team value on players that I don't think will score as many points. If I do back Watkins, I prefer the previous draft a little bit more. The third one, which is the final draft I'll be talking about, is basically a little bit in the middle of the two, where I've not spent all the money in attack, but I've also then upgraded my defender. So reading it out again, it's Raya and Fabianski. Now I've spent money in my third defender. So now it's Gabriel, Guardiol, Collins, Greaves, and Trent. So basically this would be perma play Trent, Gabriel, and Guardiol. And I'm hoping Guardiol drops 0.1 as well, so I can save another 0.1 there. And then Saka, Rogers, Boomer, Semenyo, Eze. So the same midfield as the Watkins draft, and Wood, Solanke, and Haaland. So what I've done here compared to my first draft is I've downgraded Watkins to a Solanke. So taking out that 1.5, and I've put that 1.5 into Rico Lewis to make him into a Guardiola. Essentially, this is what I've done. So this has its benefits because I think Solanke will be a pick after 2 weeks. So from game week 8, I think a lot of people will be picking Solanke. You just get him earlier. Like a lot of the reasons why my long-term strategy worked from game week 1 to 5 is I had picks that I knew people were going to get later. A bit like a João Pedro in game week 4 now. That didn't work out. But a Dunk, a Konza, a Smith Rowe that people will have. So it worked. So I think getting a striker in now, like a Solanke, he could be Jackson as well, by the way. First 2 fixtures for Jackson are good. But just getting Solanke, getting done with it, because I think he might be the go-to second, third striker, could be also another way. I could start with the Watkins draft, make him down to Solanke, and then if Rico Lewis is not working out, Guardiola could come in. So that could happen. And so that's a viable strategy as well. Those are my thoughts. Quick video, I think 18 minutes, so not too bad. And yes, we will sort of, the thoughts will evolve, new information will come, so we'll keep you posted. I will obviously do the main pod with the guys on Tuesday. I'll do my team selection on a Thursday, so you'll see a lot of me, not to worry. Best of luck, happy tinkering. Remember to farm value. Don't sell your players who you have value tied up in. Watch the price movements. Buy some players like Diaz might even double rise. So some small things like this, keep that in mind. And like the video if you are happy and liked what I shared here. And best of luck and happy tinkering.